Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Welcome to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Staci, here with my co-host, Sarah, and today we are talking about being very, very tired.
I'm so tired. So tired. Just talking about being tired makes me tired.
Right? This feels like a constant problem all the time.
Plus, it's overcast today, which does not help when you already feel tired.
And it often feels like you're tired just for no reason, you know, that not even that it's like, oh, I stayed up really late or whatever, but just that I went to bed at the same time as I did always, and my sleep's just not doing it for me somehow.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes I wake up and I feel more tired than when I went to bed.
Yeah, sometimes.
Which is never a good way to start the day.
Or I'll go to bed and I just don't sleep. Most of the time, like it's like a lot of tossing and turning and looking and then trying not to look at the clock, but being like, how long has it been? How long till daylight?
Now, see, I rarely have that problem.
Really?
I can sleep through just about anything. In fact, my husband sometimes checks to see if I'm breathing because he can call my name, he can, shake me, and I won't always wake up.
Well, that's lucky. I am the opposite. I'm such a light sleeper. But anyway, Self, the health magazine, put out a list of 12 reasons why you may be tired. So today we're going to talk about those reasons and possible things you can do to sort of combat them. And the first couple ones are so interesting because they're sort of like contradictory. So like, I was reading this article and I'm just like, so wait, what? So like the first ones are, you could possibly be tired because you're exercising before bed or not exercising enough.
Before, but this actually, it does sound contradictory, but it makes sense because I have a friend who, if she exercises anywhere close to bedtime, then she's awake forever like you. And then I have another friend who exercises before bed because it makes him tired and he sleeps better.
Yes.
So I think it really just depends on your own personal body rhythms, circadian rhythm, etc.
Yeah, I think it definitely sort of varies by person. But like for exercising for bed, I think this would be one of the ones that would definitely keep me up, because for some people, if you exercise right before bed, especially if you do something, very aerobic and gets your heart pumping, that actually raises your body temperature, and the body tends to sort of want to stay in a certain range, I guess. Like I often heard, it's better to sleep in a cool room than in a warm room.
I would much rather sleep with the house cold and then pile on blankets. Yes.
And that part of that is because of your body wanting to be at a certain amount of temperature. But then at the same time, not exercising enough, I do sometimes it's nice if I've exercised really heavily in a day, just not right before bed, to just by the time I get in that bed, I'm exhausted. I physically feel like I could fall asleep at any moment. And it's like, if I'm having a hard time sleeping, I want that.
Yes. And exercise is interesting because I have the same friend who can exercise right before bed and it makes him sleepy. His doctor once said that because he tends to suffer from some insomnia. And she said, if you're awake at 3 o'clock in the morning, your gym is open 24 hours. Just go to the gym, come home, and go back to sleep.
Wow.
And she advocated for, if you aren't sleeping at 3 in the morning, use that time productively rather than staring at your phone, which you aren't supposed to do because that screen light can affect your sleep.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that. But one of the things I saw that was recommended that I try to do, but even before I knew that this worked for sleeping, is to sort of take an outdoor walk at lunch. This was like one of my very few, because I generally don't make New Year's resolutions, but this was one of the very few resolutions I made for this year, was to just sort of get out and walk at lunchtime, just because that would be the only time when, I actually had time to walk, to actually go outside and walk. And I was like, that's a good set time every day. I can try and make that a habit. But by getting outside, and like not just, walking around your office or your house or whatever, by actually getting outside, because even when it's overcast, you're still getting sort of the sun rays, that your body recognizes that, and it tells your body, oh, okay, right now it's daytime and I'm, absorbing vitamin D or whatever from the sun. And then as the day goes on and you don't have that anymore, your body's realizing, oh, it's nighttime because I'm not getting the sunlight. So it must be nighttime. And it sort of helps to regulate your internal clock.
Interesting. So let me ask you a question. You said this was your New Year's resolution for this year, but we are at the beginning of April and it's not yet 1 billion degrees. How do you think you'll do when it's 115 outside?
That is something I really do need to figure out, like either an alternative or just an alternative place. Because currently I've been doing it around my neighborhood because I'm at home most of the time. But like my neighborhood doesn't have the best trees. So it's like, if I'm going to do that, I need somewhere that's like 80% shade, or
maybe you could just get one of those sun lamps like they have for seasonal affective disorder and walk around and fix it over your head and walk around inside. I don't think that would work. It would make me laugh.
Would be,
and I would want you to take pictures.
No. But one of the things they recommended for the people who are like, can't exercise before bed because that will definitely affect you but aren't exercising, was to do something gentle like yoga. Right before bed, which I haven't tried because when I did yoga, it was the more, aggressive flow yoga that was made to sort of work up a sweat. So I'd have to go and refigure that to be, gentler.
Well, I've actually seen yoga routines that are specifically designed for pre-bed.
Right, yeah.
So, they are specifically designed to help relax your body and not, rev your system up.
Yeah, so maybe I'll have to do that when the weather gets warmer, is stop doing my walks and instead do yoga and just try and zen out that way, I guess. But another sort of contradictory set of things that might be affecting why you can't sleep is if you eat right before bed or if you go to bed hungry. It's like, what do you want me to do here?
Well, apparently you have to find the right combination to eat right before bed.
Right. So evidently, actually, this is, I guess, something you should be doing regardless of the sleeping thing, is sort of timing what you eat when you eat during the day, of like high carb, high fat, high fiber. That eating high carb and high fat foods can affect your circadian rhythm, your body's internal clock, and that it's best to eat a light, high fiber, low fat meal in the evening because it doesn't spike your blood sugar or any of that.
Interesting. So like an apple or something before bed, that would be high fiber, maybe, but not good for your blood sugar. And
maybe not an actual meal, but...
Well, yeah, I guess meal implies more than one thing, but
on the reverse, going to bed hungry, that one, I've known since I was a kid, because if I went to bed hungry, like, it was going to take me forever to go to sleep, because you just can't not focus on that.
Right.
It's like you feel your stomach grumbling and your stomach's just loud and noisy the whole time. It's like, shh.
And the more you try not to think about it, the more you think about it.
Yes. And it also, because, your body, when you're asleep, is doing sort of all the recovery things to make up for what it was doing during the day. Part of that is, rebuilding muscles that may have torn. That's why, you're supposed to sort of give yourself a bit of a rest after a really hard workout so your muscle can recover. And if you go to bed hungry, that actually slows down the rate of the body's ability to do that. So it's like, okay, I want to get in shape, so I'm going to go a really hard workout before bed and then not eat. And it's like, you're shooting yourself in the foot then.
Right. Interesting. But then there's also the theory about intermittent fasting, which might be another episode, and that is going quite a long while between eating, and that can affect blood sugar and all kinds of things that are healthy. Again, might be another episode. So I think it really depends on the person. Again, you have to figure out what works for you.
Or sort of like making a balance of not going to bed hungry, but not eating just right before bed.
That entire bag of Oreos right before you go to bed.
Not. But like making sure to eat a healthy meal, a few hours, so that when you are going to bed and the time it takes you to fall asleep, you're not going to feel those hunger pains. While at the same time, not going to bed while you're stomach is still like, okay, totally on digestion mode.
Right. And, staying well hydrated is good too, except that there's that alternative of then you stay really hydrated and then you have to wake up to go to the bathroom 3 times in the night.
I mean, everything's a bit of a balance.
Yes, it is.
We're going to take a short break right now. Stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast.
Still on the search of that one true love? On the limbo in this crazy world of dating, marriage, relationships? Well, listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Relationship Podcast, your one-stop podcast for everything about relationships.
Welcome back. You're listening to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast. And today we're talking about reasons that you may be very, very tired and things that you can try and do to combat that. The tiredness.
Some of which seem kind of contradictory, yes.
But of course,
different bodies, different systems, different...
I was trying to make some sort of Betty pun with different strokes for different folks, but I won't do that. I won't do that.
If you can come up with it one, I'm impressed because my brain's like, nope, too tired. Can't come up with any good puns.
Puns need to be done on a fresh brain. But so one of the things that kind of disappoints me that you may be too tired from is the sleeping in on weekends thing.
Oh.
Because I really used to do that so much. And I know there's the whole thing about, how you're supposed to wake up at the same time every day. And I was always like, no. There is no way. Especially it was so funny when I was in school. High school used to start at 7:30 in the morning, but then in college I had an 8 a.m. lab. And so even though it's half an hour later, I'm just this is so early. There is no way I'm waking up at 8 a.m. on a Saturday. That's not going to happen. Who decided on this really stupid rule?
Is there a window though? Okay, so I can understand if you normally get up at 7, let's say, and then on the weekends you sleep until noon. Can totally understand that. But is there any kind of window? So let's say you just sleep in until 9.
Yeah. So you're really not supposed to go more than about an hour difference.
Okay.
Which, depending on when you normally wake up, is not enough. I guess because again, if you're waking up at 6:30 to get to work by 8. Waking up at 7:30 on a Saturday doesn't sound super awesome, but it is better to sort of keep your body in the same sort of regular schedule of sleep and not to try and catch up on the weekends because that's just going to completely throw your body clock off.
And this really is the way our bodies are designed. I mean, anyone with children knows that they wake up at the same time pretty much every morning, regardless of whether they have school that day, which is frustrating for parents sometimes, but obviously that's the way our bodies are designed to function.
Yes. And that if, the reason I think most people want to sleep in on the weekend is because they're trying to catch them on that sleep debt, which really does feel sort of like a sleep debt. I've got my student loans and I've got my credit card and now I have to pay off my sleep debt. But rather than trying to do that, with just several hours more sleep on the weekends, or even rather than trying to change your wake up time, they suggest keeping your wake up time the same and just sort of going to bed a few minutes earlier and spreading that out. And that can take weeks or months to get back to feeling normal. Mm-hmm. In the same way, if you're going to travel somewhere to change your alarm and get used to that for a week or so that the jet lag won't throw you off. And I'm like, I get it. That sounds, smart, but at the same time, I just want to catch up on sleep right now.
Yes. Well, it's the same thing with the time change. The time change can really throw people's bodies off. And so one of the things that you should do is start, a couple weeks before, adjusting that sleep schedule by a few minutes. And it's supposed to be gradual, but not always the easiest thing to fit into your schedule.
Yeah, but big shocks in your body, not the best of friends.
No.
But another reason you might be having trouble sleeping, and this one is the only one that is well, of course I'm having trouble sleeping, is if you have some sort of sleep disorder like sleep apnea. Mm-hmm. But interestingly, that children and young adults can have sleep apnea from just enlarged tonsils.
Yes.
And that you can just get that taken out with a tonsillectomy and then that might go away. And I'm just like, really? Because, I mean, I didn't have my tonsils taken out because, I mean, I know they still do that, I guess, but at the time it felt like such an old school thing to get your tonsils taken out that I was like, no one does that anymore, right? I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
But had tonsils taken out.
But I come from a family of, allergy, asthma, ear infections. So my nieces, especially my one niece, had just horrible ear infections all of the time, and so she had to do the whole tonsils, adenoids, tubes put in, etc.
Wow.
And it really does help. I mean, she actually started eating afterwards. She really didn't eat much beforehand, and it does make a huge difference.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of eating, sleep apnea is really sort of a just almost a catch-22, or not a double-edged. I'm mixing up my idioms.
I think a catch-22 would be accurate,
because sleep apnea can cause weight gain, but then it can also be caused by being overweight. So it's like, okay, I'm overweight, so I get sleep apnea, but then sleep apnea causes overweightness, so then I'm still overweight and gaining more weight, and it's just like, how the heck do I get out of this cycle?
Yes. And I mean, it's not the most attractive thing, and it's noisy as heck, but the CPAP machine can be a real help for people with sleep apnea. Obviously, you have to go through a sleep study and talk to your doctor and do all those things. It's not like you can just go to the drugstore and pick one up. But I know some people that have had it, that it's just made a huge difference in their life.
Yeah, I mean, definitely of all the things on this list, sleep apnea is the one definitely that's like, go see a doctor.
Well, because you literally stop breathing many, 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 many times a night, and that's that's just scary.
Yes, it is. But another reason, and I luckily am like the only person in my family who somehow doesn't have to deal with this, is like allergies. So if your room is too dusty, or if like you haven't washed your sheets in a while, there are allergens and germs that can be on there, and that can actually affect your sleep, especially if you've got allergies. Like I don't, so I don't fully understand this misery, but like the rest of my family,
right?
It's even when it's not allergy season, it's just like, oh, so miserable.
I do have allergies, but that's the one thing they don't seem to affect is my sleep. As I said, I can sleep through just about anything. So it's not like I'm not washing my sheets because they don't affect my sleep. Right. I do still wash my sheets. I just want to put that out there. But I'm very grateful that my allergies do not, as of yet, affect my sleep.
Well, and like even with dust mites can get into the sheets, and if you haven't washed it in a while, and so dust mites are an actual like organism, which I somehow didn't know. I guess I sort of thought of them as like dust bunnies under the bed.
Oh, have you seen pictures? Because they're creepy little things.
They are. They look. Yeah.
I realize that they've been magnified to a huge amount, but still, ugh.
Yeah, but that you can breathe that in, and then that can throw you off, and just like so. I mean, I tend to wash my sheets once a week or so, but they suggest not going more than like once every other week without washing.
Yeah, I definitely do
2 weeks
more than that. But I do know people that they can go a month or more and not wash their sheets, and
because you feel like I used to do that when I was younger, because like I shower at night, and it was like, I'm clean, I'm fine. I just took a shower and I'm getting into bed. There's no problem here. Why do I need to wash the sheets so much? But yeah, no, definitely if you have allergies, this is something you probably really do want to, take. And also if you're in just the room is dusty even. Because like I didn't think that this happened, but like as you even just walk through, you're stirring up the air, and that gets the dust up in the air again, especially like things that get caught in the carpet.
Right.
Which you don't normally think about if you're not, like dusting something that hasn't been dusted for a decade, and you can see the dust coming. It's like, yes, that obviously is dusty.
I really try not to think about, obviously I think about dust in terms of dusting things and making my house clean, but I try not to think about dust in detail, because the majority of dust is really just dead skin cells, and it just grosses me out after a bit.
I mean, it is, the rooms we tend to spend the most time in are of course the ones that tend to get dusty faster, because it is dead skin cells. But like even just walking or vacuuming, which sounds just so terrible because I'm cleaning, but through that process of cleaning I'm actually stirring up the dust. It's just like,
which then begs the question, do I dust before I vacuum or after I vacuum? because
that's the next. Wow, now I'm really stopping and thinking about that, because I always used to do dusting before, because it was like if I dust and then the stuff will fall and then I'll vacuum it up.
Right, exactly.
But now the vacuuming is stirring the dust back up, then I'm putting dust back on the. Wow, yeah. Oh my gosh,
I'm just gonna live in a bubble.
I mean, but your skin cells will still be there.
They will. Gross.
You'd have to not have skin. You'd have to.
I'd have to have a ventilation system
or
in my bubble.
Download your consciousness into a computer or something.
Oh no, creepy! And then I'd come to life and kill everyone like all the movies.
Okay, on that note, we're going to take a quick break while we stop and think about Sarah the Terminator. When we come back, we'll still be talking about other ways you can fix your sleep problem. Stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast. I have not been killed by Robot Sarah over the break, thank goodness.
Nope, I'm still human, so it's all good.
We're both still human and still struggling with the tiredness, unfortunately. Still human, yes, still tired. Ugh, well. But another reason, and I think we sort of brought up this a little bit earlier, is temperature and how that affects your sleep.
Yes.
And if the room, interestingly, is either too warm or too cold, it can affect your sleep, although for most people it's often too warm.
Right, because you can add more blankets and warm yourself up, but when it is hot in your room, there's only so much you can strip off before, you know? I mean, once you've taken off all your clothes and you're just lying under the fan, there's not much more you can do to cool yourself down.
Right. And like somehow I feel I should have known this because, when you're sick, you're trying to get your temperature back to 98.6 because that's the temperature your body just sort of tends to maintain. And when you sleep, your body is still trying to maintain a temperature, but it's just a lower temperature. So that's why the whole warmness thing tends to affect it, because it wants to get to this lower temperature, but then you're in a warm room or with 20 million blankets on and it's like, can't do it. Can't do it. It's a little hard. But also if it's too cold, which makes perfect sense to me, I tend to sleep with a blanket on even in summer, just because I'm strange, I guess. I don't know. I used to do that, especially if I took a nap during the day, I'd be in jeans with a blanket on.
Yes. I used to be like that. I used to be able to sleep in flannel pajamas in flannel sheets, which is actually kind of a skill that you have to develop because it's like a flannel board, you get stuck, but I could do it. And then as I've gotten older and I've, gotten to the age of premenopause, I am hot all the time. So it makes it kind of hard because my husband is cold all the time. So he likes about 4 blankets on the bed and I sleep with a sheet.
Yes. But that was my mother did that too when she went through menopause. She's like, it's hot. I'm like, no, it's not. What are you talking about? It's December. Like, what?
The struggle is real, folks.
I'm not looking forward to menopause.
You've got some time.
Thankfully, I do. But man, it just sounds so terrible and crazy.
But to your point, I do still like, even when I'm even being as overheated as I feel often, I still like to have that sheet. I like to have my shoulders covered, even sometimes if my feet are out. I like my shoulders covered, which is probably weird, but
anyways, I want to go home and sort of show this article to my mother, because the recommendation for temperature you should have in the room to sleep well is between 65 and 72 degrees.
Okay. What does your mom like it at?
Well, she always wants to change the temperature. I try and do that, like, when we have the heat on for winter, I'll try and be like, okay, put it at 68. Or when we have the air on for summer, I'll be like, okay, put it at 72. And she's always like, it's too hot or it's too cold and wants to change. I'm like, why can't you just leave it there? What are you doing? Like,
yeah. Well,
so I'm gonna go home and show this and be like, see, I was right. You have to leave it set where I said, because science.
Because science. I've met your mom, and she is she's not lacking in opinions. So I bet she'll have an opinion on this.
She probably would. She definitely have an opinion on this next one, which is an old pillow or mattress.
Okay. Does she like an old pillow, or
no? She most definitely doesn't.
Oh, okay.
But we've had our mattresses for a long time, like to the point where I don't actually remember when we got them. So we're all probably definitely due for a new mattress, but my mother does have an opinion and will let me know several times that she really needs a new mattress. And I'm like, yes, got it. Stop whining. But here, she'd probably show me this, because this legitimizes her. Sleeping on an old pillow or mattress definitely can affect your sleep.
Yes.
You know, it depending on how old and how affected it is, you know, it can affect your body position as you sleep, leading you to wake up in pain or to ruin your posture.
Yes.
But also, and I think we talked about this earlier with the allergens, old mattresses, especially, you know, you've been sleeping on them for years and years, they've got stuff in them. And that sounds much grosser than I really want to think about. But, I mean, on the one hand, it's your stuff, so...
Well, right, but it could just be something as innocuous as sweat, but
right.
Or, you know, if you're drooling at night,
right.
That soaks into your pillow. But yeah,
but like, you think, you know, oh, okay, my sheet's on and that's fine, the sheet will protect it, but it actually kind of goes through the sheet, especially, you know, something like sweat, which is liquid, which would, you know, soak through it.
Yeah.
And then can actually get in the mattress. So, and I wish we had these and we just don't. But if you use like a sort of mattress cover or mattress topper, that can sort of help protect your mattress.
Are we talking about like a mattress pad that goes over your sheet? Or are we talking about like a memory foam mattress topper? Which one?
They actually do make like anti-allergen, and that's not the correct term, but
hypoallergenic
mattress covers like solely for the whole let's not make allergens on earth. And they make them for pillow covers too, because I've definitely had one of those, even though I don't have allergies, so that, you know, the allergen stays on the cover but does not soak into this thing that you're going to have for a long time. And so, like, I used to have a mattress topper that was both like the fabric was hyperallergenic, but it was also like padding, and that was really nice. Oh, it was so nice. And even though like I don't have allergies, so I didn't notice that much of it, it just felt cleaner somehow with the hyperallergenic mattress pad. I was like, my mattress is protected and my sheets are protected. Like, everything just felt so much more sanitized.
Slightly psychosomatic. You were just convinced that everything was nicer.
It's hyperallergenic, so there's no allergens whatsoever in this house. That's just how that works, right?
That's hilarious.
Yeah. But yeah, that definitely, because, you know, and I mean, I think what's the recommendation is like every 10 years for a mattress, or no longer than 10 years for a mattress?
Probably. I don't know even how old our mattress is. It was pre-marriage, so I do not know how old it is. It existed before me, which, going back to that whole stuff soaking into your mattress, maybe I don't want to think about that.
Oh my gosh.
No, not to put, and I'm just
moving on.
Yeah.
But and I mean, it's hard to really sort of test that with your mattress unless you see, like, you know, very obvious dips or whatever in the mattress, and then
right.
But if your mattress looks okay, but then once you get on it, it feels different. It's hard to visually see, okay, now the time's to change. And then as you're sleeping and you like start waking up sore, it's hard to sort of realize, oh, that's my mattress,
right?
And not just, oh, I'm getting older or something,
right? And it's amazing the science that has gone into mattresses in the last, even let's say decade. I mean, I think about the mattresses at my grandmother's house that had the literal box spring, and the springs could break, and, you know, things like that. And now they've got, with the memory foam, they've got the sides that adjust to different firmness or not, temperatures. They can adjust up and down to help with snoring. It's pretty amazing the science that we've put into trying to get a better night's sleep.
Yes. I mean, that's like, I'm actually surprised that this isn't like a government department of sleep.
Department of sleep.
Wouldn't that make the whole country better if we all got good night's sleeps?
It also sounds like a Monty Python sketch. The Department of Sleep.
It does. But finally, and I mean, this one I think a lot of people know, is about light.
Yes.
That can affect your sleep. If the room's too bright, or if, like most people, you're looking at your cell phone or your tablet or your computer before
And it used
bed.
to be this was more of a problem for people who had a television in their bedroom and fell asleep with that light on. But now with everyone having a phone or an e-reader or, an iPad, whatever it is, it seems like we're all looking at... And it's what's your instinct? You wake up, you can't go back to sleep, you grab your phone, you play a game, you read something, you look on the internet.
Well, and even evidently, just if you can't fall asleep and looking at your phone just for the time, that bright light can shock your brain into being more awake. And it's just like, really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But I mean, it's very interesting the way that, people are trying to combat this now. So I have an iPhone, and iPhone has a couple of different things. It has the night shift mode, which sort of blocks out the blue, and you can change the setting for that to make it more or less orange. It looks kind of orange. It's kind of funny. So I'll put that on, and I'll set it. You can set the time for it when you want it to come on, either by natural sunset or whatever, or just 9 p.m., whenever you tend to typically be getting ready for bed. But then there's also, in the clock feature on iPhone, there's a way to set bedtime, which is supposed to sort of be to make sure you get 8 hours of sleep. If you're going to wake up at, 7, then you need to go to bed by 11. Right. To sort of set a reminder for yourself, and you can set that to go off.
So your phone starts nagging you, go to bed.
Right.
Hello, go to bed.
You were supposed to be in bed half an hour ago. No, you cannot watch one more episode. but
you cannot read one more chapter.
Right. You can set a timer to go off, at bedtime or an hour before bedtime. So I set mine for an hour before, and that's sort of the reminder to me of stop looking at your phone. Stop looking at screens, so that I have that hour for my brain to slow down and not have all the blue going off. But they also have these blue blocker glasses, which I didn't know were a thing.
Oh, I bet they're hilarious. I'm just picturing them being ugly as Get Out.
Well, I think they used to be, but now they're actually really fashionable.
They're probably stylish.
Right? You can find some really fashionable frames, and I'm like,
because I'm picturing 1950s 3D glasses or something.
Yeah. So there's a thing in them that, of course, blocks the blue light but lets through all the others, so that your brain's not just absorbing it. And I think a lot of people, even without the going to bed thing, use this if they look at computers a lot for work.
Yeah, because that can really affect your brain. You mentioned your alarm going off, or your reminder going off about an hour before you want to go to bed, and that's actually a good thing. Also, if you're just running around doing things, trying to get everything accomplished before you go to bed, that reminder can be good, so that you can sort of slow down a little bit, whether that's reading for a while or doing some yoga, doing some meditation, whatever it is. You can start slowing your body down so it's ready for sleep.
Or even just dimming the lights just in the house or in your room, because you don't think about it too much. You totally obviously get the thing from the screen, because we've talked about that so much just as a society, but that even the regular lights in your house, especially if you have older fluorescent bulbs or LEDs, that light can be very white or very blue. It can have fall very far on that spectrum, even though you don't normally think about it. So if you're in the kitchen or whatever with the bright overhead light, that's still affecting you almost as if you were looking at a screen. And so that it's a good idea to sort of take some time as you're getting ready for bed, and to only have soft yellow amber lights, which feels so we're going backwards, because we all get fluorescent bulbs to get away from the really yellow light. But evidently, we really should have stuck with those, at least in the bedroom.
And the fact that there are so many different colors of lights is fascinating,
right?
And strange. But yeah, you should. You just need all your different spectrums of light, so you
get your full spectrum.
You can flip this switch at 6 a.m. and turn on this different set of lights at bedtime. And
they actually, I kind of really want to go buy this. They make these for babies. they're amber colored, so that if you have to wake up in the middle of the night to change a diaper, to not sort of brighten your infant into awakeness. And I'm just like, I really want one of those for when I'm reading at night, because I generally do try and just read before bed. But if I'm reading with a really bright whitish blue light, that is completely counterproductive, even though the whole point of me reading is so that I won't look at my screen.
Right.
It's like I'm not working here.
Right. Yeah. And then if you know, like my husband tends to go to sleep before I do. So if I'm reading an actual physical book, then trying to figure out how to not wake him up with the light. And if I'm reading on my Kindle, I always dim the screen as much as possible so that it's not just blaring in my face or waking him up.
Mm-hmm. So that was our tips for the day of being tired. I definitely need to try some of these because I'm just so tired lately. But it, like we said, you know, it might be different. I still can't find a bed pad. It might be different mattresses for different people. I really wish I had.
We didn't even cover caffeine. You know, don't drink caffeine after about. Some people say noon.
I can't do it after like 12:31. I can't. It'll keep me up all night. It's so annoying. But I mean, so hopefully these were tips where the listeners can, you know, try out different things and see what works for them and the different temperatures and all of that, and hopefully get better sleep, because I think that's something we could all really use.
Yes, definitely.
So thanks very much. You've been listening to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Health and Wellness Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.